What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Millie Maker Roundtable, talking Week 14 main slate, of course, with the special emphasis on the Millie Makers, both on DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm DraftCheat. You guys know that by now. Joined today by the two usual suspects. We got SNYDER, we got Locks, we got Week 14. Locks, what's going on, man?
Not much. Ready for another week with you guys. Last week was okay, not the greatest, but got the live final coming up next week. Just a lot going on right now. Picking some winners, and we'll move on, right? So looking forward to another week. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. That is the goal, trying to pick winners. We'll go game by game as we always do. SNYDER, before we get started, how are you doing on this Saturday night?
Doing pretty good. Excited for this slate. Got the golf match going on in the background too. Tiger Woods and Rory are taking on Spieth and JT, so that's kind of interesting. They're playing at dark somewhere on some course, I think in the Bahamas or Florida or something. Kind of interesting.
They're playing under the lights?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They're playing 12 holes, and they got like everything, like stadium lights and everything in there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I was watching UFC myself, but turned off as the sports always are turned off for me when I get on the show. You know, if you're the analyst, SNYDER, you can maybe have the sports on in the background. The host, though, got to be on top of your game. So no sports going right now for me. Full focus on Week 14. We will go game by game through the slate, as we always do. 10-game slate, a little bit shorter slate this week. There are 6 teams, I believe, on by. We'll go, of course, as we always do, by the DraftKings order of games. And with that, let's get started. First game we'll talk about Cleveland and Cincinnati. Cincinnati Bengals, 5.5-point favorites, 46.5 total. Of course, we saw the return of Deshaun Watson last week. He looked really bad. I predicted the Scott Hansen red zone 75-yard touchdown. That didn't happen for Deshaun Watson. He looked like a guy, SNYDER, who hadn't played football in 2 years. I mean, at this point, jury's out on what he's going to look like going forward, I think, right? We just don't know. Obviously, the talent's there. He's not old or anything, but who knows with all the stuff that's been going on with him. Certainly the Vegas, the betting market buying into the Bengals here. Pretty big favorites, as I said, 5.5-point favorites. We are waiting on news on Amari Cooper, who I think is going to play, but currently still questionable. I don't think we'll know that maybe till tomorrow morning. And then, other than that, pretty much standard rosters. I guess Hayden Hurst out for Cincinnati could potentially open up some more targets for some of the Cleveland or the Cincinnati wide receivers. Joe Mixon, I guess, also back after Samaje Perine filled in pretty well these last couple of weeks. So I'll throw it to you first, SNYDER. What do you see here, Cleveland and Cincinnati?
Yeah, for sure. This looks like a pretty good game here. We're going to have some chalk in this game on the Cincinnati side. I'm kind of interested to get your guys' thoughts on the running back position here, as Joe Mixon's going to be one of the higher-owned running backs here. Interested to see if Samaje Perine's kind of carved out himself a little more of a role than he had in the past. He's been playing good as of late. I don't think I'll get to him. Mixon's kind of the cash game guy. I think I'm going to be off of him in tournaments, though, and more so go with the Burrow doubles here. We're getting T. Higgins under 10%. I don't think Jamar Chase is going to get too much ownership. I would expect somewhere like right around 15%. Maybe he approaches 20%, but nothing too crazy there. So definitely like this Bengals passing attack at home, as always. So I'm going to have some of that sprinkled in. They're going to be without their tight end this week as well. Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to get to either of these guys, though. This Mitchell Wilcox looks like the guy that might be the guy filling in, 2,700. I guess you could maybe throw him out there if you want. I just don't think I'm going to get there this week. So it's just mainly going to be those two in the passing game. And then looking at the Brown side, like you talked about, Deshaun Watson did not look like – well, he looked exactly like he should after not playing in a game in like 700-plus days. But his price tag did not fall really either. So it's kind of stayed where it was. So I'm interested in maybe playing him in a couple tournaments there. He was only 12 of 22. Definitely didn't look good there. I think he's got the mobility, though. He can rush for 50, 60 yards in this matchup, I think, which could help raise his floor. He's going to be like 1, 2, 3% owned. So I think I might throw a dart on him and run it back with like a Jamar Chase or a T. Higgins. I think Amari Cooper sounded like he was going to play to me, but I don't think he's going to be really owned. Him or Peoples-Jones, I like both of them. So I think you could stack this game up quite a few different ways. So I'm definitely going to have some interest in this game from both passing standpoints. I don't think I'm going to play Mixon in tournaments, but that could change, I guess.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking on that the backfield there? Do you think P. Ryan's going to see some more usage in this game going forward?
I think Mixon will mostly take back his role, but I mean, clearly P. Ryan can fill in and do the job, I think, just as well as Mixon can. So we could see more of a split backfield. Wouldn't shock me. But I'm with you, Snyder. I do think this game is interesting from a lot of different ways. And, I'm not ready to write off Watson forever after just one game back. I mean, it could easily just be, I'm sure he was nervous and you got to shake off the rust, right? And it could just be he just needed the one game and now he's kind of good to go. So
there's probably a lot going through his mind too, being back in Houston and all that stuff.
And this isn't in a super easy spot either. Go on the road to a good Cincinnati team. But still, I do think Watson has upside, especially if Amari Cooper plays. If Cooper sits, I do think Peoples-Jones becomes a really interesting play at that point. You could throw in Njoku. Really a lot of plays, I think, on both sides of the ball here. Locks, what do you see, Cleveland and Cincinnati?
Yeah, definitely an interesting one. Could be a sneaky high total game. In all honesty, I love the Bengals pass attack here. With Hurst out, I think it just helps the guys like Boyd and Higgins a little bit. I think they're just going to get more targets. There's no reason to really go to that backup or I guess now starting tight end, Wilcox. I can't get there. I think it just helps the receivers more. We saw Chase get a little bit involved in his first game back here from the injury. I think he gets even more involved, and I think he smashes this week, to be honest with you. So he's probably my favorite play in this game. Him and Mixon, I like both of them. And then obviously Burrow, he's always in play. We see him on Millie Makers all the time. Just a stud. So those three guys for me, in all honesty, on that side of the ball. On the Browns side, if I really have to go with anybody, I'm not too interested in this side, but I'm going to play Njoku and probably Peoples-Jones. That's probably the only two guys I get to on this side of the ball. But other than that, not much interest in this game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Peoples-Jones, I think, could come up with a big game here. 4,900 on DraftKings. I think he's 6,100 on FanDuel. So he would be, I think, my preferred run back, especially with Amari Cooper a little bit banged up. We'll keep it moving. New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills up next. Of course, the Bills, big home favorites here, sitting at 10 points at the moment. Total is 43. The Jets obviously have played much better with Mike White under center. He's going to get another start here. Garrett Wilson has had two really good games in a row, maybe not monster games, scoring in the mid to high 20s there. He's been excellent whenever Mike White or Joe Flacco has been quarterback. It's just been Zach Wilson that has held Garrett Wilson back for the most part. So he's an interesting play, I think, there at 5,900. Corey Davis had a solid game, 10 targets against the Vikings, 5 catches for 85 yards. Possible punt at 4,200. The Bills, you pretty much know what to do with their passing game. It's Stephon Diggs going to get most of the targets. He will have a tough matchup here against Sauce Gardner and, a team that, for the most part, held Justin Jefferson in check. Last week, Jefferson did get that late touchdown, but not much yardage. So potentially a slower game for Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis, kind of the boomer bust mid-tier wide receiver that you can go to. And then we did see Locks, kind of a changing of the guard in the backfield, or at least it looked like it, with James Cook kind of out-touching. I think he out-touched, certainly outperformed Devin Singletary. He looked good, man. He looks good when he's got on the field. I think he was, a second-round or third-round running back pick, Dalvin Cook's brother. 4,600 on DraftKings. Hard to trust it completely. They could go back to Singletary, but with the way Cook looked, it kind of seems like Buffalo, revving him up a little bit for their playoff run. So he's an interesting play, I think, on the Buffalo side of the ball. Locks, let's go to you. Buffalo, New York Jets, what do you see?
Yeah, that's a great call on James Cook. Definitely one I really wanted to talk about. I mean, he's 4'6". I think he's going to continue to get more and more carries. I mean, he got 14 to Singletary's 13, I think, last week, and Cook caught 6 passes out of the backfield. Singletary caught none. So I definitely have a lot of interest in that. Probably going to be one of my favorite plays of the week, actually, to be honest with you. At $4,600, I mean, how can you not? I think Stephon Diggs gets sauced this week, so I think it's a Gabe Davis possible bust-out spot. I'd say my two favorite plays on the Bills are going to be James Cook and Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Really my only interest there on that side of the ball. And on the other side of the ball, I actually like Elijah Moore at 3,500 more than I like Corey Davis. Corey Davis a little dinged up. I think he's still questionable if I'm not mistaken. But I have a little interest in Elijah Moore at $3,500. And really, he's the only guy I'm looking at other than Garrett Wilson on the Jets side of the ball.
Yeah, not much for me on the Jets side. They're going to get Michael Carter back. For me, that takes the running backs all out of play. And I don't know, Snyder. You never know with Josh Allen, but I'll be surprised if this game shoots out and goes far over that 43 total, obviously outdoors in the elements in Buffalo. And I just see a lower scoring game here. Jets obviously have both these teams have a pretty good defense. But yeah, what do you see, Snyder, between the Jets and the Bills here?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you guys. I really like James Cook this week. The usage went up like double the snaps last week. He averaged 4.5 yards a carry last week. He even saw 4 carries inside the red zone too, as well as the 6 catches in the passing game. So I think James Cook is a great tournament play this week. Hopefully he doesn't get steamed up too much because we're looking for a little bit of salary savings this week. So I'm definitely going to be overweight on James Cook. Not going to play Singletary or any of the other running backs on the Jets side. I'm right there with you as well. Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's going to be chalk again, but I mean, DraftKings just refuses to bump up his price tag. He's still under 6K. He's broke 18 points, I think, in 4 of the last 5 games. So definitely another guy I'm going to go to here. This Buffalo passing attack, these Jets should be passing quite a bit here, I think, with the 10-point underdog here. So definitely in on the Jets there. Elijah Moore's fine for tournaments if you want to go that far. Not sure I'm going to get there. I mean, he had 6 targets last week, but then we caught 2 of them, though. So I think that's a little thin. I'm going to be off of Diggs as well. He's going to be guarded against Sauce. I mean, Sauce has just been absolutely fantastic against everybody. He shut down Chase. He basically shut down Jefferson last week. Jefferson did get that touchdown, but that was a short pass, so I'm not really going to put much into that. So definitely off of Diggs. I think this is a spot where maybe we see Gabe Davis kind of erupt if he can get through the pass coverage there. I think they're going to try, and like the last game, they tried to move Diggs around away from Sauce a lot. They put him in the slot some, so I'm kind of worried if Sauce doesn't like shadow him, he's going to be on Gabe Davis slot though too. So I'm going to have to think more on if I'm going to even go to Gabe Davis or not. But I definitely like the running back side there from the Bills. The defense here, I have some interest in the New York Jets defense as well. 2,500, really cheap price tag. They've scored 7 points or more in 8 of their last 9 games too in defense. So I'm going to have some Jets defense in my player pool for a cheap defense. As I think there's going to be a couple chalk defenses we'll get to later, but I don't think the Jets defense is really going to be owned at all. And we've seen Allen turn the ball over quite a few times in the past. Yeah. He's not 100% healthy either.
I like that Jets call at 2,500 on their defense. And you are right. We will get to a chalk defense in the next game. Dallas Cowboys, 17-point home favorites over the hapless Houston Texans, who are down to just a bare bones roster, especially a wide receiver. Brandon Cook's going to miss. Nico Collins going to miss. It's ugly for the Texans right now. Cowboys 17-point favorites, as I said, a 44 total. We've seen quarterbacks actually the passing games really haven't done much against Houston all year. Their pass defense has actually been okay. Obviously, the bigger factor is just that teams are always ahead against Houston. You just can run the ball all game long, which is what most teams do elect to do. Certainly what I expect the Cowboys to do. I think Zeke and Pollard, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, Snyder, if you saw both those guys put up 20-plus fantasy points combined for 3 or 4 touchdowns, 200 yards total. You know, I mean, sky's the limit, really, for those 2 guys. So I do think they're both interesting plays against the Texans. I'm just going to stay away from the Cowboys passing attack. I'm not playing Dak or any of the receivers here. I just think the Cowboys want to run the ball. They'll be able to here. They're going to be ahead. Texans side, I mean, you know, anytime a team's highest price pass catcher is 3,400, that's Chris Moore, you have to at least consider it, right? Chris Moore, Philip Dorsett, Jordan Akins, if you want to punt tight end, I guess. I'm not excited about those guys, but probably one of them will end up doing okay at least. And then the big question, Snyder, is do you want to pay up for a chalk defense? I'm seeing Cowboys come in around, I don't know, probably 15 to 25% owned would be my guess on them. But we saw in their last game, I mean, I don't play defenses in Showdown very much, but it was a pretty easy click into the captain spot for me with that Dallas defense against the Colts. And you could argue this is an even better spot for them. So I think they're going to smash, but chalk defense, that's expensive as well. Doesn't seem like the spot you necessarily want to be on. So kind of an interesting spot. I think the most important decision, honestly, in this game is what to do with that Dallas defense. So we'll go back to you, Snyder. Your thoughts here.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be overweight on this Dallas defense. I mean, you look at what Mills has done over the last 4 games. He's been sacked 15 times, and he's thrown 6 interceptions, and now he faces probably the meanest, toughest pass rush in the league. They're on the road as big underdogs. You know he's going to be dropping back a lot. I think Micah Parsons is just going to be teeing off on him this week. So I'm going to be on Dallas. They scored 16-plus points 4 times this year. I think they hit that 20-plus mark again like last week. Like last week, I was on them as well as you and the captain in the flex. I think I just locked them into all my builds for Showdown. So I'm going to go right back to at least playing. I think I'm going to play at least 50% of them in MME and definitely probably try and get to them in cash in some of my single entry 3-max stuff. So I definitely think this is just a great spot. I would maybe even pay like $5K for this Dallas defense in this spot. I think if they get 20, I mean, that's such a big leverage, such a big deal for you there in tournaments. So I'm going to be right there. But I actually have been playing some Zeke more so in like showdowns and stuff lately. I mean, 15-plus points, I think, in his last 4 or 5 games. So he hasn't really shown the upside. But if he was ever to go for like 100-plus yards, I think this is the matchup. And I do like I'm not going to play him and Pollard together, but I think Pollard's definitely got the upside, especially in the second half. If they get up big, they may give him the whole second half. So I think we could see Pollard go for 30-plus in this spot again. So I'm going to have some ownership on both of those guys. Not going to play Pierce. I'm going to have some of these Houston guys in my pool. Like you get Philip Dorsett, the 3K Stone Min. I think he's
max 1 per lineup, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like Dorsett and Moore are the 2 guys I would mainly look at. I don't think I'm going to play Amari Rodgers or anything like that. But definitely some interest in Dorsett and Moore, though, in tournaments as kind of some run backs. I'd even play them with the Dallas defense.
Those are the 2 guys I'm looking at, too. I think over the tight end because they do play 3 tight ends. And I just think those guys have more. At least they've got a little bit of upside, right? They got some speed. You never know.
Maybe Akins would be the only tight end I would look at. I think if I had to pick one.
I looked into him a little bit today, and I do prefer the wide receivers, even if you got to pay up a little bit more. So Moore, Dorsett. Locks, give a preference between those 2 guys. And then, talk about the Dallas defense, what you're going to do there. And then, what you're going to do with the Dallas offense as well. Go ahead, Locks.
Yeah, between those 2 guys, I'd probably lean Dorsett just for the savings. I mean, it's hard to really tell which guy's going to get the majority of the work. So at that point, I'd rather just save the money. I mean, I know it's $400, that could come in huge building your lineup. So if I had to lean, I'd probably lean Dorsett. I think he's got a little bit more speed too. So that's just my opinion. And then with the tight ends, Akins is probably my favorite if you're going to play one of those guys. But if you're playing anybody on this offense, absolutely, like you said, max 1. There's no reason to have more than one of these Houston guys in your freaking lineup other than just a salary saver. So on the other side of the ball, I'm with you guys. I'm not playing much of this passing attack. Dak just doesn't get there because they run the ball when they get down there. So it's Pollard, it's Ezekiel Elliott. If I'm going to choose anybody in a passing game, it's always CeeDee Lamb. Dak loves him. He's having a great year. So I'd say Pollard, Elliott, Lamb for me. On the other side, one of the wide receivers, Dorsett or Moore, and that's pretty much it. This one's pretty simple and move on. As far as the defense, there's 2 different ways you can go about it. I mean, they are in a smash spot, right? We all know that. We all know jam them in. They're going to crush the Texans. You could also get off of that and say if it turns into a blowout, we get the second stringers in, then the game opens up and all of a sudden they score some points. So it's a possible way you could look at it if you wanted to fade that defense. I wouldn't have any problem doing that either. So, I mean, we did talk about a $2,500 defense. It's going to save you quite a bit of money. So it's just about how you're building your lineups and where you want to go to. But, they're in a smash spot. We all know that.
Locks, are you willing to play Pollard and Zeke on the same lineup?
In a GPP, possibly. But I never do. I never want to play 2 guys. Yeah. I could see it. This is the only backfield I could see doing that with, to be honest.
It's interesting because we do have like just their last game as a data point for what they did when they were kind of blowing out a team. And it was basically Pollard and Zeke that got all the work, right? They didn't really go to the third string running back. I think the third string guy got in on the very last series, got like 2 or 3 carries. And I also think the Cowboys like want to keep both these guys happy, right? So they want to give them both a touchdown. So that's, I don't know, it's just a unique situation. Like you said, it's the only backfield I would ever consider playing 2 backs in the same backfield, but they're not that expensive. $6,700 for Pollard, $6,100 for Zeke. I mean, if they did what they did last week, right? Pollard put up 25, Zeke 18. You're not probably going to win a tournament with that, to be honest. But you know that's still a pretty good score. So I don't think it's crazy, but I think prefer separating Pollard and Zeke, at least on the majority of my own lineups. Let's go from what should be a blowout there in Dallas to what should be a close game. Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions. It is the 5-7 Lions who are 2-point favorites over the 10-2 Vikings. Kind of crazy. I get it, but still kind of crazy. 51.5 total. We did see these teams play back in, I believe it was week 2. The most notable thing about that game, Okudah, the great Detroit cornerback who has been, he was a top 5 pick, I believe. Dug into it a little bit. That was week 3. He shadowed Justin Jefferson on 85% of snaps I saw. And Jefferson had his worst game of the year. 3 catches for 14 yards. There's a lot of bracket coverage. Not surprisingly, in that game, Irv Smith, who was the tight end at the time, had his, I think, second highest target total. And then Adam Thielen had a good game as well. Obviously, the Vikings have Hawkinson in there now, coming back for a revenge game. I think he's interesting. And, the Lions side of the ball, we know Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to do it each and every game, locks. But DJ Chark, I think, is a very interesting play here. He's got a really good matchup. And then we'll see if Jameson Williams can get more involved. I think it's going to be, St. Brown's role is obviously unquestioned. I think Chark's role is pretty damn secure. And then Reynolds, Jameson Williams, I assume Williams will start to kind of cut into the snap share of Reynolds, but we'll see how they do it in Detroit. But expected to be a shootout indoors in the Dome. And Justin Jefferson, I'm seeing him projected. He's normally pretty low owned, but I'm seeing him up around 20% projected ownership in the shootout here. I hate fading my boy, but at that ownership and with the tough matchup, I mean, it worked so well that the first time they did it with Okudah shadowing him that I would assume they're going to come in with a similar game plan. Now maybe, they can scheme Jefferson open, or Jefferson's just so good that he beats him anyway. But it does concern me for a 9K player who's going to be chalk, who comes in what looks like a pretty tough matchup to me. So, I'll throw it to you, Locks. Detroit, Minnesota.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite games to get to this week. There's so many different ways you can go about this one. It's a great call on Jefferson. He's going to be a lot higher owned than recent weeks. I mean, we've seen him around 3 to 5%, and that's just crazy to me. But now, like you said, he's going to be upwards around 20. So
what I think is almost a worse spot than he's been in recently. I mean, people are just looking at the total, right? They're just seeing the high total. They're seeing,
hey, it's against the Lions, but they're not thinking about, hey, look who's guarding them.
Right.
And if he's going to shadow him, like you said, then that's a whole different story. So there's a lot of different ways you can go here. I'll probably be a little bit under the field this week on Jefferson. I'm still going to have him. I love the guy. He's in a smash spot. So if I were to play anybody, my favorite play on that team's TJ Hawkinson all day. We love the revenge narratives. A.J. Brown just went off in his last week. So I'd say Hawkinson's going to go off this week, especially if Jefferson's getting shadowed. I love Hawkinson. I love Kirk Cousins this week. I actually wouldn't mind like a Cousins, Jefferson, Hawkinson, and then to get different, run it back with DeAndre Swift and DJ Chark, something along those lines. You know what I mean? Just to get off of the Amon-Ra that everybody's going to play on that side of the ball. There's just so many ways you can go about it. Dalvin Cook's interesting to me. So if you go Goff with Amon-Ra, like a lot of people are going to do, run it back with like Dalvin Cook and Hawkinson. That's another way you can get that different a little bit. So definitely a lot of paths here and a lot of guys that can just bust this slate wide open. On the Lions side of the ball, it's Goff, Swift. You can always play Jamal Williams. He always seems to get there, but I'm calling it. He's not scoring this week. This is going to be the 1
Old
week.
call. He scores every week.
So he's not scoring this week. I'm playing Goff, Swift, Amon-Ra, Chark. That's it for me on the Lions side. On the Vikings side, I'll obviously have Jefferson. My favorite play is Hawkinson, and then you can sprinkle in Thielen and Cook as well.
Yeah, I like Dalvin Cook here. I think a lot of people have kind of written him off, but you could see a big game for him. Certainly a good matchup. He's still out there. The vast majority of play is still a big part of their offense, SNYDER. But I do think you can get different in this game and still get big pieces of it, right? Like if we do think they take away Jefferson, Cousins is a good enough quarterback to go elsewhere with success. So I love the Hawkinson call. I think Adam Thielen could come through with a big game here. He'll probably have to score 2 touchdowns, right? Just doesn't have the explosive ability anymore, but he's 4,900. So just 1 touchdown and it'll probably end up being okay. That Cousins, Thielen, Hawkinson stack with like a DJ Chark run back, right? I'm seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown, over at SaberSim projected for the highest ownership of any wide receiver on the slate by a good margin. He's not cheap anymore, right? 7,800. He's now appropriately priced. He's not a secret anymore, right? Like I'm not saying the Vikings are going to shut him down by any means, but they're certainly going to, you would think, game plan to hold him in check as best they can. So yeah, DJ Chark sitting there at 4,300, the huge discount, both in price and ownership, I think is a very interesting play. And then it does look like DeAndre Swift kind of finally maybe taking over that backfield, but they're still playing 3 guys, so that it does make me a little bit nervous on Swift. But he's cheap enough, 5,800. You can get there. A lot of ways you can play this game, SNYDER. How are you playing it?
Yeah, interesting. There is a great call that you had there on Jeff Okudah, but it looks like he's kind of questionable. He still hasn't really been practicing this week. If he doesn't play,
he came back Friday. It was an illness,
did he?
And from what I read, he should be good to go. But
I got you. Nice. Then definitely, I was going to say if he was some way out, I mean that would be a great spot for Justin Jefferson. But I definitely like the call that you brought up there with the possible fade there on him. So I'll probably wait to get 100% on clarification on that news there before I decide if I want to play Justin Jefferson or not. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown I think he's fairly priced. So, I mean, you look at what he's done the last 4 weeks, what he did the last of the stretch last season. He's had 37 catches. He's averaging over 100 yards a game the last 4 games. Found the end zone in back-to-back games now. So I definitely think he's a guy I'm going to be looking to in all formats of my lineups this week. So I'm definitely going to be on him this week. He just runs those shorter mid-range routes that Goff just loves to throw to. So I'm going to be on that. I think Goff's a great option again this week inside the dome. I love playing Goff when he's in the dome and at home. So I'm going to be on him. Cheap price tag still 5,600. It allows you to really stack this game up. You can stack that and Jefferson or go to Hawkinson. I really like the Hawkinson call there too by you guys. I'm gonna be overweight on him this week. He's just the volume guy there. He hasn't really broke out for like a huge game yet, like 100 yards or something like that. But I definitely think that he's definitely it's right in the range of like 15 to 20 plus points in this outcome. So I like that. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with Swift yet. I know his usage went up, but his price tag's still down, but the ownership's now starting to catch up. I think he's going to be at least 20% owned this week, it looks like. But it's good to see he finally got a double-digit carries last week. He's still seeing the usage in the passing game. He's found the end zone in 3 of the last 4 games, too, so that's interesting as well on the rushing side. So I'll probably maybe get some Swift in my lineups. I'm not sure quite yet on that. Dalvin Cook is a guy – I don't think he's going to be highly owned at all. I think he's interesting for tournaments. Back-to-back games with 20-plus rushing attempts. A little bit of usage in the passing game as well. I think he's interesting for tournaments. But I definitely like this game. Going to be looking to stack this up, mainly with Jared Goff over Kirk Cousins, just because I like Goff at home. So that's the route I'm going to be going in this game.
Yeah, I think this game's going to end up being really, really popular.
I think Goff might even be the chalk cash QB as well.
Yeah, I've seen it kind of go back and forth between Cousins and Goff. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the highest owned wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think Justin Jefferson will be in the top 5 of highest owned wide receivers. I think Hawkinson will be a top 5 owned tight end. And Swift, I think, will be a top 5 owned running back. Some ownership on Dalvin Cook as well. But it is the second game of a divisional matchup.
I'm just looking now. Thielen's going to be 20+% ownership. I don't think I can play that though.
Yeah. So I will have exposure to it for sure, but there are other good spots on the slate too. You know, it's not just a 1-game slate. So I'll definitely have some. I don't think I'll full fade Justin Jefferson, but I'll be under the field, and then I will be kicking myself for overthinking.
Did you say you're seeing Thielen at 20% ownership?
I just seen that. Yeah, I just looked that up, and I thought that was kind of wild for his old ass.
I'm seeing 17. Yeah,
I'm seeing like 10, 11. All right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we're all obviously looking at different.
Yeah.
We'll say it's going to be between 10 and 22. There we go.
22%. I'm not playing them. No way.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
It'll be curious. I mean, I just think people, the first thing they're going to want to do is grab Goff, Amon St. Brown, and then run back with Jefferson, right? That's kind of the premium stack, especially because there's not that many running backs that you really want to pay up for. So, yeah, we kind of know which way people are going to go. And in general, in these huge field tournaments where we're trying to win $1 million, not always, but getting away from some of the chalk is typically a pretty good idea. So Minnesota-Detroit, certainly a good game, but there are different ways to play it. And just know if you are going heavy on that game, you got to find ways to get different elsewhere. That's for sure. That's Minnesota, Detroit. Let's go to Philadelphia and the New York Giants, a game that I actually like quite a bit here. I think it's going to go much lower owned, certainly than the last game we talked about in the Vikings and the Lions. Eagles 7-point favorites going on the road to New York, 45 total. Big piece of news we're waiting on is Saquon Barkley, who we're seeing is a true game time decision, they're saying, with the neck injury. I don't think he really practiced all week. Obviously, if he missed, that would be a big blow to that offense. I assume it would be like he rarely comes off the field, so we don't really see other running backs mix in, but I think it would be Matt Breida that gets the vast majority of the work for the Giants. He would be an interesting play at 4,300 if Barkley sat, just kind of out of necessity. But I'll be going back to the stack that kind of saved my week last week. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, all the things I said last week hold true. This team still missing Dallas Goedert. They don't really throw to the tight ends that are left. They don't really throw to the other wide receivers. It's just every play, it seems like not every passing play is a target for either Hurts takes off running or he throws it to A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith, two of the most, I think, talented wide receivers in the whole league. The matchup looks awesome here against the Giants. So, yeah, give me this Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith stack. I like the double stack, but you can choose one or the other, right? Hey, Hurts can obviously do damage on the ground as well. And then the Giants side, looking for a run back, SNYDER, is interesting on the Giants side because they do have some cheap options, but Philadelphia has very, very strong boundary quarters. So, I was looking at like what is Isaiah Hodgins? Yeah, but he's going to have Bradbury on him, I think, for the majority of this game. Slayton's got a tough matchup on the outside as well. So the two guys that I kind of like are Richie James, who does his work in the slot. He's had big games in 2 of the last 3. And then I do like quite a bit Daniel Bellinger, their rookie tight end. He's got some athleticism. Had broken in for like 96% of snaps by week. It was week 6 against Baltimore. He had 5 targets in that game. The next game against Jacksonville, he was playing every snap. That's the game where he, I believe, broke his eye socket or some gruesome injury. Was out until last week, week 13, obviously against the Commanders. Played 95% of snaps in that game too. Ran a route in almost every play, 5 targets, caught them all. And he's got the one with the beatable matchup against the Eagles and a team. I think the Giants are going to have to play from behind here and throw the ball a little bit. So, yeah, I really like Daniel Bellinger. I'm seeing low ownership on him as well. I like him as a run back to these Eagles stacks, which I think are going to go off once again. So, SNYDER, we'll start with you. Giants and Eagles. Are you excited about this game as I am?
I am from the Philadelphia side, but I don't think I'm going to have too much interest from the Giants. But I definitely like the call there on Bellinger. I think I could be talked into him. So I'll have him in the pool. I did play some Richie James on the Thanksgiving slate. So at 3,600, I'll probably have him in the pool too. I think he scored like 15 points on that Thanksgiving slate.
Yep.
So gonna be back to him. But this Philadelphia offense, I mean, they're so explosive. I mean, they could always nuke the passing game, nuke the last week. But I'm kind of looking at a low-owned Miles Sanders a little bit this week. Looking at the Giants' rush defense, they've given up 20-plus points to the RB position in 6 of their last 7 games. I think this is a spot where we could get Miles Sanders under 5% probably, I would think, in this game. $6,200. I think that's definitely in the range of outcomes there for him to hit 15 to 20 points in this game. He's hit 30 a couple times this game, though, or this season. So I'm going to have some Miles Sanders in my teams, and then I like the Hurts singles and doubles. I'd play Hurts with both of Devontae and AJ, and then I'd probably do a single with that as well. So I don't mind that Bellinger run back, though. I really like that cheap tight end there. It really helps open things up for the rest of your lineups there. And then I'll have some Richie James kind of sprinkled into those teams as well, though. But I definitely I'm going to be overweight on this Philadelphia offense as a whole. I mean, they can just nuke it so often, Yeah.
Last week, Locks, we talked about the pass funnel that the Titans present, where they're really tough to run the ball on, but you can throw the ball on, which obviously made that Eagles double stack look really good, which absolutely smashed. Problem with the Giants, you can do whatever you want against that defense. You can pass it, you can run it. They've had an easy schedule, so I think their defense potentially is even worse than the numbers show. So I don't know how Philadelphia will attack. Could be through the air, through the ground, both. But I do expect them to have no trouble moving the ball and, explosive, like SNYDER said, can hit from anywhere. Obviously I'm excited about this Eagles team. What about you, Lux?
Yeah, definitely excited on the Eagles side of things. There's some other pieces from the Giants side, but on the Eagles side, I'm going to go Hurts, A.J. Brown-Smith. I'm just like you. The Giants' run defense actually isn't the absolute best, so I don't mind a little Miles Sanders. I normally hate the guy.
Yeah, but definitely separate Sanders from Jalen Hurts, though, because they really don't throw to him much.
Yeah, definitely. You want max one of those guys for sure.
Yep.
If you play Sanders, normally I never play the guy. I've picked the 2 weeks to play him, so I've been decent so far at picking the weeks to play him because I never do. So I wouldn't mind a little bit of him to get different from the like Hurts, Brown, Smith stacks a little bit if you want to run that side of things. And then actually Quez Watkins is kind of sneaky. He's had 5 and 6 targets the last couple of weeks. Since Goddard went down, I think he's been a little bit more involved. So maybe throw him in your pool at $3,800. That's a little interesting to me. On the other side of the ball, I always love Barkley. I'll continue to play Barkley if he plays. Obviously, if he's out, well, we got Breida there. You can spend down if you want. I'm not going to get there. I'll play James Cook over him all day. So I'm probably not getting to Breida regardless. The guy on the Giants side of things, I like the Bellinger call, but I also like Isaiah Hodgins at $3,500. I think he's getting a little bit more involved, and he's probably my favorite receiver on that side of the ball. And then Richie James as well at $3,600. Just those guys are all too cheap, and they're going to have to throw the ball because they're going to have to stay in this game. So I think those 3 guys have interest to me.
Yeah, I was looking at Hodgins too when I was researching today, and I think he's going to have James Bradbury on him for the majority of his snaps, who is arguably the best corner in the entire league. So that was enough for me to move off of Hodgins onto more James and Bellinger. And then Bellinger was kind of the one, especially because he plays tight end, right? So you can fill a tight end spot for a cheap position. So that's why I ended up on Bellinger myself. But yeah, cheap options on the Giants. And then, are you Matt Breida? If Saquon gets ruled out, what's your guys' interest level in him?
I'd say it takes my interest up a little bit. I mean, at $4,300, if I can play him and play James Cook, I can spend up a lot of other places. So that's some interest for sure. I'll probably have some lineups with that if Barkley's out for sure.
SNYDER, your thoughts on Breida if Barkley's out?
Yeah, I think he's a fine play there for that price tag. It's so cheap, and the Eagles' defense has actually been giving up points to running backs this year. So I think that's definitely in play if Barkley is out. But I thought I seen that he was leaning more towards closer to playing last I seen. But definitely something to watch, though, I think.
Yeah, we'll see on Saquon, but certainly news to watch in the morning window. We'll keep it moving to the second half of the games on the slate. First one we'll talk about Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, a divisional matchup. No surprise to see a really low total in this one, sitting at 36.5. It's actually the Steelers who are 2-point favorites. Lamar Jackson, doubtful to play in this game. I think he might end up missing a couple of weeks, hopefully back for the playoffs. Tyler Huntley will fill in. You know, he played most of last game. What did he play? 3 or 4 games last year when Lamar was out, and he played all right. You know, decent fantasy option. Mark Andrews had some really big games with Tyler Huntley under center. I think Andrews is an interesting play here. Huntley himself, I don't mind at 5,500 if you want to punt. He can run a little bit. And the nice thing about him, I think, is the pairing is just super obvious, right? If you're playing Huntley, you're playing Andrews with him and hoping that it goes that way. So I don't mind that. We do have it does look like, okay. So on Thursday, Deontay Johnson missed practice, but he, it appears, is off the injury report at this point. He's going to play. You got George Pickens with the squeaky wheel, but I don't know, just not enough volume there, I don't think, to get there myself. Running backs, I'm not going to Baltimore running backs. I never do. I suppose you could play Najee Harris if you wanted, but Snyder, I don't think want too much of a game with the 36.5 total.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I will say it's going to be interesting to watch. The Ravens just activated J.K. Dobbins about an hour ago, it looks like, and he's 4K minimum price tag, so that's interesting. I mean, for like the Millie Maker or something, I think maybe you could throw a couple of sprinkles there if you want. But I think Gus Edwards is going to have his role. Kenyon Drake probably won't be mixed in that much. I don't think they cut Mike Davis.
Backs and 3-headed backfield. Right?
I mean, I might have a couple shares just in like a Millie format or something like that. But yeah, I'll probably have some Tyler Huntley as well, though. Two of the games he played last year, he had 70+ yards rushing. And then in those games that he started, he basically only threw to one guy, and that was Mark Andrews. I think he had double-digit targets in every game that Huntley played. He even scored, I think, 38 or 40 points in that game against the Packers when Huntley went for 35+ in that game, and he brought Mark Andrews right with him. So I'm going to have some Mark Andrews and Huntley stacks there. Huntley isn't the best of throwers. I don't think he even had a game where he threw for over 250 yards last year, but all of his targets are going to Mark Andrews there, so it's an easy stack. And the rushing upside is definitely there for Huntley as well at the cheap price tag. So I'll have a little bit of that. Pat Freiermuth, the guy I always play for the Steelers. He typically sees the majority of the targets in the passing game. They're a pretty safe guy. 4,500 is not a terrible price tag, but I don't think I'm going to go to any of these other Steelers as well. I guess you could look at Deontay Johnson, but I haven't been playing him at all this year. He did have 11 targets last week, but he didn't do much with them. I think he had like 5 catches for 50 yards or something like that. But Pickens is an upside play, but his price tag's in that 5K range now. I like playing Pickens when he was more in like that low 4K and 3K range. So yeah. I'm going to be pretty much off of this game. Such a low total here. Just Huntley and Andrews, and then maybe some sprinkles of J.K. Dobbins at the 4K min.
Yeah, I do think you can play both defenses here as well if you want to go in that direction. Well, I don't know what your source says, Snyder.
I think Pittsburgh's going to actually be the chalk. If it isn't the Cowboys defense chalk, it's going to be the Steelers chalk defense.
Yeah, I think so. Which probably is one of the things contributing to Mark Andrews' ownership. I'm using SaberSim, the optimizer that we kind of endorse here at RPS. They've got him projected for 1.27% ownership on Mark Andrews, which I assume it will be higher than that. I'm
seeing a couple other places I'm looking too. I think he's going to be under 5% at a couple other locations that I'm seeing.
Come on, at the worst position with a guy who threw him the ball all the time last year, that makes no sense to me. I mean,
sign me up.
I was just building out my kind of shell lineups early in the week, and he was the guy I kind of wanted to play before I even looked at ownership at all. So, yeah, I'll be well over the field on Mark Andrews. If he's anywhere under 10%, I'll have much more than 10%. And if he's really, 1, 2, 3, 4% on, that just seems crazy to me, Locks.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely nuts. And we've seen, like you guys just talked about the whole time, Huntley, that's the only guy he throws to.
We've already seen it. We have like a good sample size of him.
Yeah.
The ball. Yeah.
I think he scored 30 twice in those games or something like that.
Yeah, and even last game when he came in, what did he do? Throw it to Mark Andrews. So, I mean, this is a super easy game for me. Ravens side, it's Huntley, it's Mark Andrews. I'll X out every other player for my pool, to be dead honest. And on the other side of the ball, really, it's Pat Freiermuth, those three guys, and I have really no interest in this game. I'm not going with the chalk Steelers defense. I'll play the chalk Cowboys defense over them all day. I think Huntley and Mark Andrews can do some damage against them, so I definitely don't like that defense if they're going to be chalky. Those three guys, and that's it for me. I'll keep this one simple.
Yeah, talk about a nice way to get to the top. Low-owned Huntley and Andrews against the chalk defense, and you're off to the races if they can do some damage. And frankly, I kind of expect them to. I know they're going to be low-owned, but I do think they've got a good chance to perform. So that is the Ravens and Steelers. Let's move to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, the last early game on this slate in terms of the Vegas totals here. Titans 3.5-point home favorites over the Jaguars, 41 total. Trevor Lawrence, who it looked like he had like a season-ending injury in the first half of that game against the Lions last week, came back after halftime and looked fine, but now really hasn't practiced much. Limited capacity on Friday. He said he felt good that he's going to play, but we'll see on Trevor Lawrence. I'm not 100% sold that he's going to play. Who's their backup even? Jacksonville's CJ Beathard. Okay, Big T.
Beathard. Big T was wanting to play Beathard in the FD final.
I hope for Big T's sake that Trevor Lawrence is in there so he doesn't burn his live final entries on Beathard. But we'll see with Trevor Lawrence. I do think if he plays, he's an interesting play. We talked about last week the Tennessee pass funnel defense. They're really good against the run and can't stop the pass. That'd obviously be perfect for Lawrence. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, I think should bounce back, assuming he does play from a down week last week. He still got 7 targets in that game. And then, even Evan Engram, I think, is a reasonable play, 7 targets as well, and a touchdown in the last game. He's 3,300. So assuming Lawrence goes, I think the Tennessee or Jacksonville pass offense looks interesting. We'll stick with you, Locks. Tennessee, obviously you've got King Derrick Henry coming off of frankly, he's been a little underwhelming these last 4 or 5 games, 30, 38, 87, 53 rushing yards. Still going to get volume, and you can certainly run on Jacksonville. Potential bounce back spot for Derrick Henry, but I do think he's going to be pretty highly owned in this one. Tennessee pass offense is ugly. Lost Treylon Burks to concussion. Amazing catch by him, hanging onto the ball despite being knocked out for a touchdown catch last week. But he's out this week. Robert Woods, Westbrook, Akine, and then I do think Chig Okonkwo, I think, is a somewhat interesting tight end punt, 2,700. Very athletic dude, and the snap count has been on the rise. Good matchup here against Jacksonville. So maybe some sneaky under-the-radar plays in this one. What do you see, Lux?
Yeah, this Tennessee offense, I mean, with Burks out, is just going to be sad to watch, I think. I think they just hand it off to Henry 25 to 30 times and hope he runs for 150 and 2 TDs. I mean, I think that's going to be one of those weeks. I was hoping Henry's going to be lower owned just because of his price, but I think he is going to come in probably 25% is my guess. I don't have any.
I'm seeing him up at 33 now is the highest owned back on the slate. Saberson has. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, I mean, I'll have him. You can't not have the guy, I don't think, in this position. But I don't love anybody else on this offense, in all honesty, other than Okonkwo. He's probably going to be one of my favorite plays of the week. It just sucks because I like 3 tight ends a lot this week. So it's going to be based on my build on what I do. I'm going to use Okonkwo for all my where I want value at tight end, and then I'm going to use Hawkinson and who did we just talk about? I can't think
Andrews.
Yeah, Hawkinson and Andrews and the other 2.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 favorite tight end plays. It's obviously based off of how I build them, but yeah, Okonkwo is probably my favorite play on that team. outside of Henry. And then on the Jaguars, I don't know how Lawrence survived. I mean, that slow motion replay, I didn't think there was any chance the guy was playing, especially the rest of the year. So that shocked me. If he's in there, yeah, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are my two favorites. ETN could easily have a bounce back here. I played him last week. He kind of hurt me a little, but I'm willing to go back to the guy. He's a special talent, so I could see him get involved as well. On the Jaguars side, Lawrence, Kirk, Ingram, and then ETN as a backup, and then Henry and Okonkwo on the other side.
Yeah, it makes sense. Pretty straightforward game. You'll see a lot of ownership, obviously, on Derrick Henry, but I mean, this does set up for one of those epic smash spots, but I don't know. Henry kind of gets him when you least expect him, it seems like. Oftentimes low owned. Certainly not going to be the case here. Snyder, what do you see? Jacksonville, Tennessee.
Yeah, this is a spot I think I'm going to jump back on the big dog this week. When he's played the last two times he's played the Jaguars, he's got 345 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns against them. He's had a couple other games where he had that one game like 240-4 against them a couple years back. He just always seems to smash the Jaguars. So I'm going to be on some Henry. I like the call on Okonkwo, or however you pronounce it there, Locks. I really like that guy for a cheap tight end. So he's going to make the player pool for me. And then regardless of who plays at quarterbacks, I'm still going to play some of this Jacksonville passing attack against the pass funnel on the Titans here. I think with the total being so low, it's definitely going to keep guys off of this game. This game wouldn't surprise me if it kind of shot out a little bit and goes over the total. Maybe we see 48 points in this game or something. So I'm going to have some pieces of Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. I really like playing Christian Kirk. I've played him pretty much every week this year. It's turned out pretty good so far, so I'm going to keep going right back to him. Zay Jones is under 5K still. He's a fine play. I don't think I'll go to Marvin Jones or anything like that, but I really don't play Evan Ingram that much either, so I think I'll just go to Okonkwo in this spot for that too. But I definitely going to be heavy on the big dog this week, I think, as my spend up at the running back position, and then kind of filling in some Jaguars passing attacks as well too.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars passing attack is a little bit interesting because I just don't think people with the question marks around Lawrence are going to, I mean, what is the Millie Maker? Half full right now of teams. And I don't think very many of those teams have a questionable Trevor Lawrence in their lineup. Of course, sub teams will adjust, but a lot of people kind of just keep their lineups the same, right? As long as no one in their own lineup changes. So I'm seeing Lawrence projected at 2% ownership in a pass funnel spot. I like that a lot if he does end up playing. And I guess I'll roll probably with a little bit of old CJ Beathard if I know Big T is going to have him on one team in the live final, so I'll have to have a little bit myself. But yeah, we'll see with Lawrence. But yeah, I think it's just an interesting game overall. Let's get to the afternoon games. Kansas City and the Denver Broncos, first one that we will talk about. That Broncos offense just absolutely brutal week after week. They now lose Cortland Sutton, and it is the Chiefs who are 9-point road favorites here, total of 44. The Chiefs, we've seen their backfield, Snyder, go to a lot of Isaiah Pacheco over these last couple of weeks, has scored in each of the last 2 weeks. This is a tough team to pass on. The Broncos are. You can run on them a little bit. I do think Pacheco is interesting to me at 5,700 on DraftKings. I think he's 7,300 on FanDuel, so a little pricey over there. But wouldn't shock me to see KC lean on the run game and their defense a little bit more here than they usually do. Obviously, Travis Kelce, a good play as always. I'll mostly avoid their wide receivers as I normally do with KC. And then Denver, missing Sutton. Obviously, they lost Hamler earlier. Tim Patrick, they lost earlier. So it's going to be Jerry Jeudy and Kendall Hinton, I think, mostly with something called a Brandon Johnson filling in as well. Not a great spot for Russell Wilson and this pass offense. He's cheap. If you want to go back to Russell, I tried it 1 week. I was one and done with Russell, Mr. Unlimited this week for me. I won't have a ton of this game. I'll obviously have shares of Kelce. I'll have some Pacheco, a little bit of Mahomes just because he's solo owned. Dolchich, Judy, I'll mix in these guys a little bit, but you really don't want too many Broncos on your rosters, I've learned over the last few weeks, Snyder.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I'm going to have too much ownership in anyone in this game outside of probably some Dulcich. I mean, I'll probably have him on my cash team and such. He's going to be like one of the more chalkier tight ends.
Cheap him like
guys.
30% owned or something crazy.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'll play him in tournaments just because I'll have him on my cash team for probably sure. But I think he's the guy that's going to see a lot of the opportunities here in the passing game. 8 targets last week, 6 for 85. He's definitely got that upside like we saw in that first showdown game when C-Dome called him out. So I think he's interesting. I don't think I'm going to really get to anybody else from this Denver passing side. I can't play Russ. Maybe some Kendall Hinton at 3,400. I think he's viable. But if his ownership gets too high, I think I can get off of him. But he has showed some decent upside for the price there. Scored 10 points, 9-9 a couple of those games. So I think that's kind of a filler. If you need a last guy in, you need a cheap guy. I mean, you can throw him in. That's fine. I think this is like a trap bad spot for the Chiefs, too. I kind of like the under in this game. I think it's just going to be a slow game where the Denver has a really good pass defense as well. So I could even maybe play a Denver defense at 2,300. I think that's kind of viable here. I don't think they're going to be owned at all. So maybe I have them in the pool for MME, but I'm kind of off of this game as a whole. I'd rather play Mark Andrews over Travis Kelce. I'm not going to play Mahomes. I'm not going to play Russ. So it's just kind of a stay away game for me. Maybe I throw Sky Moore in there again. I know we were both kind of on him last week and it didn't really work out, but 3,200. I'll go back. I'll throw him in a couple lineups just for what ifs. I mean, he had 6 targets in the 2 games before, and then they didn't even look at him in the last game. So that was definitely hurtful. But I think maybe just throw him back in. Lots of
I can't go back to Sky Moore. He cost me a kidney last week. I had to cut out my own kidney and mail it to Mr. JT Hayes. So Sky Moore is dead to me. I'll leave Sky Moore to you. I'm sure he'll go out this week to twist the knife, so to speak, in my own kidney. Locks.
It's Justin Watson then this week, DC.
What's that?
Just pivot to Justin Watson this week.
No. And last time I tried to play Andrews over Kelce, that didn't turn out great either. So yeah, I'll be back on some Kelce this week. I think people might just kind of write off this KC passing attack, assume it's going to be, a low scoring game. That's possible, but you never know, right? With Mahomes and the Chiefs, they can get it going at any week, especially after losing last week against the Bengals and kind of a disappointing performance from the passing offense. I bet they want to get it right. So I'm on like kind of. Doesn't
Denver usually play them tough though? Like every year, it seems like they always kind of play them tough, no matter how good they are.
They do, but still Mahomes.
Yeah.
A low ownership, and you just don't know. So I'll have some exposure there. Won't be anything crazy for me. No Sky Moore. I'll say that much. Locks. The interesting thing about this game, I mean, Denver has been just horrific throwing the ball. But they have the highest projected owned tight end by a decent margin in Greg Dulcich. And I'm seeing Kendall Hinton as the 6th highest projected wide receiver, which seems a little bit crazy to me for a team that I think if they had scored 18 points every game, they would be like 9-3 or something crazy like that. I mean, just a horrific offense by Russell Wilson and this Denver coaching staff. So I don't know. I don't think I really want to match the field if those guys are going to be super high owned, Dulcich and Kendall Hinton in particular. You do have the old man. What's their run? Latavius Murray going to get some work. I do think Mike Boone's going to be worked in more this week. But anyway, Locks, KC, Denver, talk to me.
Yeah, I was laughing because I saw on your cores it said no Sky Moore in every box, so that's why I started laughing.
Well, I haven't even seen that yet. He got me. Well,
JT right. Must have got you.
I threw Chigoziem Okonkwo on my in my core on Wednesday, so I think I might change that to Hawkinson though. I don't know, but that's why I was laughing when he mentioned Sky Moore. I saw your core up there. I was like, that's hilarious.
That was not me. That was Mr. JT Hayes.
Oh, that's awesome. In this game, in all honesty, I'm fine Xing the entire backfields in this one. I'm not going to play any running backs from this game. Just way too much interest elsewhere there. If I'm playing Kansas City side, it's Mahomes to Kelce always. The only other guy I'll even play is Juju. We've just seen that he can have some good games. He's been solid with Mahomes this year, so he's my only other interest in that offense. On the Broncos side, I have to choose if I'm playing Russell Wilson or Brock Purdy this week. They're the same price, so I don't know how to choose between the two. What do you guys think on that one?
The non-Russell Wilson.
Brock Purdy? Come on. He's got a better offense around him, too, so that makes sense. I think I said the only way I'd play Russell Wilson is if he got under 5K, so we're trending that direction. Maybe once he gets there, I'll finally put him in. But on the Denver side, no interest at all other than Dulcich and possibly Denver's D, but I don't think I'll get there. I'd say probably Mahomes, Kelsey, Chiefs D, Juju in that order, and then Dulcich on the other side and move on.
Yeah, makes sense. And I did change my cores now. I left the not Sky Moore in every spot, but I did put Sky Moore himself in one of the core plays, which will be changed early tomorrow. But yeah, got to fire back a little bit there. That's Denver and KC. Let's get to the last two games before we do. Just a reminder, hit the like, hit the subscribe so you don't miss any of the content we put out daily here on the Run Pure Sports channel. We do appreciate you guys watching, of course, each and every week. Hit that like button for us. It helps us bring you this show free of charge every Saturday night. We've got the big block of content coming up tomorrow morning. We've got people in live finals, so we've got a couple subs. Snyder, are you filling in on the Off the Chalk show bright and early tomorrow?
I think next week. I think Tampo's here this week, but next week I will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got the task or the honor, whatever you want to call it, of filling in for Big T on the Morningwood Show. Big shoes to fill with Mr. Big T, who is at the FanDuel live final this week, DraftKings live final next week. I will do my best, and I'll just mostly roast Crane, and I think I'll be well off for that show. So looking forward to that tomorrow morning. Tune into that, and of course, if you want to sign up over at Run Pure Sports, use the promo code RPS Heater 25 for 25% off your first month's payment. Join the winner circle with us over at runpuresports.com. All right, last two games on the slate: Tampa Bay Buccaneers and San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the big news here, Jimmy Garoppolo, broke his foot, I believe, in that last game. Going to be out maybe the rest of the season. It sounds like he could potentially come back for, the championship game or the Super Bowl. But going to be out a while. It's going to be Brock Purdy behind center. Look okay. I think pretty good. Better than expected, I guess, against Miami. Filling in, he did play most of that game, 25 for 37 for 210 yards, threw a couple touchdowns, and he's got weapons around him, right? Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, obviously Christian McCaffrey, and then a great schemer too. So he is set up for success. And I don't know, Locks, it's not like Jimmy G was anything special. So I don't know how big of a step back this offense will really take. We'll see, though. It is kind of a tough defense here against Tampa. Really good against the run, but I still think Christian McCaffrey, especially on this slate, makes for a very interesting play. To me, I think he's going to be heavily involved in the pass game like he was last week. 10 targets, 8 catches for 80 yards and touchdown through the air last week, 17 for 66 on the ground. Listen, I mean, they gave up a lot to get him. They're trying to, get in playoff position, and I think they're going to lean on McCaffrey with the rookie quarterback making his first career start here. So I like him quite a bit. I think you can mix in the other pieces if you want on San Francisco. Tampa Bay, Leonard Fournette is questionable. If he's out, Rachaad White would have to be in consideration, but I think Tampa Bay might struggle here going on the road to San Francisco. How much is the San Francisco defense this week? I bet they're 3,200. Yeah, I kind of like them a little bit against old noodle arm Brady. So talk to me, Locks, San Francisco and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Purdy actually didn't look horrible last week. I mean, he threw 25 passes, or threw 37 passes, completed 25 of them for 210 and 2 TDs. Yeah. So, I mean, he's viable. It's $5,100. So if you want to spend up in a lot of other spots, I don't really mind getting there. I think they're going to be chucking, but McCaffrey could be a beast too. I think who this hurts the most in this offense with Garoppolo being out is I think it hurt Ayuk.
Yeah.
Absolutely the most. So I lose interest fully in him. Really, the only three guys I'll have is McCaffrey, Samuel, and Kittle. I think Samuel and McCaffrey still just get bulk of the work, and then Kittle's obviously going to get thrown to as well at the tight end position still. But I probably won't get to Kittle as much this week. I mean, he is down at $4,300, which seems crazy to me. So I wouldn't mind possibly getting there if I had a few lineups. So he'll be in my pool. On the other side of the ball, I don't know with this team. I think Brady's dusty. I think the 49ers D lights him up. So I really don't think this Tampa Bay offense is going to move the ball very much against the 49ers defense. I actually have a little bit of interest in the 49ers defense this week.
Yeah.
So I like their defense. If I'm going to play anybody from the other side of the ball, it's picking and choosing between Fournette and White. That's my decision there. I'm not going to play any wideouts because I don't like Brady. And if I'm playing the 49ers D, I don't have much interest at all. So just the two running backs, choose between them. On the other side of the ball, McCaffrey, Samuel, Kittle in that order, and move on. Not much interest other than that.
Yeah, I think McCaffrey might get absolutely peppered with targets in this one, kind of like an Eckler situation. It's the safest way to do it, right? When you got a rookie quarterback and you got the best receiving or, a top 3 receiving back in the NFL, let McCaffrey do the work, get him out in space, let him kind of take control of the offense. So that's what I'm expecting. SNYDER, I'm seeing, we talked about the ownership on Henry, 30 to 35%. I'm seeing McCaffrey 10 to 15%. I'll take the ownership discount there. I know he's a little bit more expensive, but I think he's going to have a big game. So I'm in on some CMC this week. What about you, SNYDER?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was going to say, I thought McCaffrey was going to be like half of the ownership of Henry. So, I mean, that's a good leverage spot there. This is definitely a spot where they're a home favorite. McCaffrey should get a lot of work here. I do a little bit worry about his workload if they're going to absolutely try and push him 20, 25 touches, as Jordan Mason kind of worked in a little bit last week. I think he had 8 carries or something, but definitely I will have some McCaffrey. I'm going to be on some Ricard White, though, as well. It looks like Fournette's questionable. I think they're coming off that short week. Didn't they play on Monday, Tampa Bay?
I believe so.
So it's kind of a short week for Lenny. White out played him again for the 3rd straight week. He outscored him for fantasy points as well. So I'm going to have some White in my player pool. I think that'd be the only Tampa Bay guy I would have in my player pool. He's catching a lot of dump offs and such. Kate Otten, I guess, he had 10 targets last week for 2,800. That's interesting for a Millie build if you want to throw him in there. But I do really like that 49ers defensive call there at 3,200. Kind of a pivot off of the chalk Cowboys up there in similar range, 600 less, but close to that. They're only allowing 11.4 points per game in their last 5 games, the 49ers defenses. And now they get dusty old Brady coming in. So I definitely think they're going to rain some havoc on him. So I like that call for sure. They've scored 11, 15, and 18 points too for the defensive scoring on DK for the last 3 weeks as well. So definitely like that. Pass catchers, I like Kittle some at tight end if I can fit him in. I'm not sure how many tight ends I can really fit in, but he would be in consideration there. 4,300 is just too cheap of a price tag for his upside. Doesn't have the proper quarterback, but maybe he kind of leans on Kittle as a safety valve there. Deebo Samuel, he's definitely got the upside. Always can take one to the house. Probably sees a few carries as well as some shorter passes and stuff, get him open. So he's in play too, but I don't think I'll have overly too much into this game.
Yeah, Nick Bosa didn't practice most of the week, so if he is out, I would have a little bit less interest in that.
Yeah, that'd be a huge blow.
But if he's in there, I mean that, Bucs offense does not look good. Tom Brady, that offensive line kind of bad, and the running game not. So I think 49ers defense is certainly interesting, especially if Nick Bosa does end up playing. Let's get to the last game on the slate: Carolina and the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks 4-point home favorites here. A little bit surprised they're not bigger favorites than that, frankly, against the Carolina Panthers. 44.5 total. Carolina obviously has turned to Sam Darnold, who doesn't look great, but he does look a lot better than Baker Mayfield looked, and has kind of revitalized DJ Moore a little bit. Chuba Hubbard carrying the load most of the time for Carolina. He should be in. And then the big news, though, is on the Seattle side. I think Ken Walker, they're saying a true game time decision. Looked like they called it like a jammed ankle, which I really don't even know what that is, Snyder, but it looked ugly, missed the whole game or most of the game, didn't practice all week. I mean, I would be kind of surprised if he played, to be honest. We'll see. And then DJ Dallas, recent report is he's unlikely to play. So I think the most likely scenario is both Dallas and Walker are out. It would seem to be Travis Homer who would, at that point, get a big role. He's 5K on DraftKings, can do it in the passing game. Kind of unclear whether or not they would trust to give him a bunch of work on the ground. I guess it would be Tony Jones Jr. who would potentially fill in. He got 7 carries for a grand total of 14 yards last week. So a situation to watch in the Seattle backfield. It could just be they let Geno Smith and Metcalf and Lockett kind of go to work. So that's an interesting stack there. Carolina side, moderate interest in Foreman and DJ Moore. Snyder, finish us off here with this last game.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with the Carolina side. I have less interest in them, but Foreman played 35 snaps last week, but he carried the ball on 24 of those 35 snaps. So I think
they want to just run him into the ground. They do it every chance they get. So
yeah, for sure. I think he's going to see some ownership, though. I could see him like 15 to 20% ownership possibly. So I'm not sure if I'll play that. And then DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore is going to be one of the more popular mid-range guys there. Good price tag for him, 5,500. He's got the upside. I'll probably have some of him in the player pool, but then you get to that Seattle side. I really like the passing game for the Seattle side this week. I'm going to have some Geno Smith in there. I was actually surprised at how low the ownership looks like it's going to be on Lockett and Metcalf. I think they're going to be like 10% or lower this week, it looks like. So I'm going to have some Geno with doubles and then singles, like I do with the Philadelphia side. I'm going to play it kind of the same way. I think Lockett smashed last week. He's definitely right in there. He scored a touchdown. Lockett's actually scored a touchdown in his last 5 games, so that's something to kind of note. DK Metcalf's definitely got the upside. I'm going to have him in there sprinkled around too. 7,100 for him. He's 600 more than Lockett, so I bet that Metcalf will be a little lower owned than Lockett will be then, just because of his price tag. I don't think I'll get to the tight ends here. I just like the other ones a lot better, and I'm going to stay away from this Seattle running back. The whole position as a whole, though, as well. Just with the uncertainty of Walker, and then hopefully people would start jamming Homer if he is out, because I don't think Homer is that good, and I think they're going to kind of chop it up still between the other guys, so, and lean more on the passing attack. They've actually been passing the ball a lot more this year than years in the past, so definitely in on the Seattle passing attack this week.
It would make sense, Locks, for them to go to the passing attack here if Walker and DJ Dallas are out. I mean, Homer is a passing down specialist, and Tony Jones Jr. really seems like truly nothing special for a team that, like, Geno and this offense can obviously move it through the air. So yeah, I could see that happening. I do have interest in the Geno stacks. What about you, Locks?
Yeah, sorry if you can hear the screaming baby in the background. Hopefully you can't too much, but yeah, on the Seahawks side, I think they're just going to pass more here. Ken Walker, I don't think he's going to play. I mean, it doesn't make me have any interest in Homer. I'd rather play James Cook and then Breida if he plays over Homer all day. I mean, to me. So, in all honesty, the guys to play here is Smith with Metcalf and Lockett. That's really the only interest I have in the Seattle side. I think they're just going to chuck this whole game. And then on the other side, I have some interest in Foreman at 5,400. I mean, he ran for over 100 yards last week again. He just continues to crush. He's been over 100 yards for the last 6 weeks. So no problem there at 5.4. And then DJ Moore at 5,500 I have interest in. The other guy I want to mention is Laviska Shenault at $3,300. I kind of have some interest in him. He's gaining a little bit of snap counts. I think he could have a good week. And at $3,300, he's going to be one of my value plays at wide receiver, I think, in some GPPs. I think he could get there. We got Sam Darnold throwing on the ball. And I'd rather play Darnold over Purdy or Russell Wilson, to be honest with you. So if I play him, I wouldn't mind running him with DJ Moore or Shenault in a GPP to get interesting. But I'd say Chenault's probably my favorite value play at wide receiver in this one. But on that side, like I said, Foreman, DJ Moore, Chenault, and then Metcalf, Lockett, Geno Smith on the other side, and that's it for me in this one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's all 10 games. We'll do the plays of the day at this point. We'll go to you, Locks, first. And, last week we had someone giving you a hard time about you saying, to be honest with you, in all honesty. So I have to admit I did a counter here. I was marking it down every time you dropped a, to be honest with you. Do you want to guess what your total is on the show?
We're going to guess 13.
You got it exactly 13 times.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
I probably missed one or two, but we're going to give you the win there. I see you messaged me in the chat. Go to Snyder first, so we'll come back.
No, that was earlier.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You disappeared for a little bit. Okay, so you are ready for the honest Locks play of the day.
To be honest, number 14. I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson in a revenge spot, tight end, 5.1K. I think he scores for sure once, possibly twice this week. I like him for sure. He's going to get peppered with Jefferson being locked down. So I like him for 1 or 2 touchdowns this week. Goldilocks play of the day, TJ Hawkinson.
Honest Locks play of the day. I renamed it. Sorry, Goldilocks is gone. Let's go to Snyder for the what's the Snyder play of the day called?
The Snyder Soldier. We'll just keep going with that.
Snyder Soldier. There we go.
The Soldier for this week is going to be another tight end. I'm going to roll with my guy Mark Andrews this week at hopefully under 5% ownership. I think he's going to put up 20 plus. Hopefully he's got that 30-point upside. We saw a couple times from him last year with Huntley at the helm. So Mark Andrews is the guy I'm going to be way over the field on this week.
Snyder Soldier, Mark Andrews, and it was between 2 tight ends for me. So we're going to go with 3 tight ends on this show. I'm sure that will end well. We've got, obviously, Mark Andrews. We've got TJ Hawkinson, both of whom I like a lot. And I'll go to my guy, Daniel Bellinger, playing essentially every snap for the New York Giants, who I think are going to be trailing in this game against the Eagles. The Eagles have excellent boundary corners that I think will take those Giants outside receivers mostly out of play, leaving Bellinger to do some work, I think, over the middle of the field as the Giants chase this game into the second half. Daniel Bellinger, Mom's Basement, play of the day. And that'll do it for Week 14 Millie Maker Roundtable. Thanks for tuning in, as always, whether you're watching this live or on demand. We do appreciate you watching each and every week. Hit the like button on your way out. Check out the Run Pure Sports channel right here. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Tomorrow morning should be good stuff. And if you want to join the team over at Run Pure Sports, you can use promo code RPSHeater25 for 25% off your first month's payment. That's it for Week 14. For Locks, for Snyder, I'm DC. We'll check you next time.